Hey friend, this is episode number 569 of the And So podcast with Taylor Bradford. Let's get to it. Boss Girl Creative presents And So with Taylor Bradford, business and life musings from a successful serial entrepreneur. Each week, you will hear Taylor spill the tea on all things business, life, relationships, health, and everything in between. But don't worry, each week also includes a business nugget that will help you stay on course. And now a throwback to 3-year-old Taylor who inspired all of this.
And so.
Hello, welcome to episode number 569. I am your host, Taylor Bradford. Thank you so much for being here. We have an action-packed chat coming up at you. That's where I'm at today. Let us dive in to what I have on my list to talk about. First of all, last week on Tuesday, talk about a scary storm day for Taylor. I was in our dino pit, which is a 5-foot pit in the ground at the shop, because we had active tornadoes in my area. 3 to be exact. 3 have been confirmed, 2 EF0s and 1 EF1. The amount of hail that hit my building while I was there by myself during this storm was 25-ish minutes of baseball-sized to golf ball-sized hail. And I just kept thinking, is Babe Ruth hitting homers out of the park that are hitting my building? Because the back cracks, just ice hitting metal and then busting open. You talk about crazy scary. And we survived, but then I was very scared because my husband was over at our house build, and I was very scared to go take a look at the garden because we had hail out there as well. So, plus we had just an onslaught of rain for 3 or 4 days right after that storm, and it was just a muddy mess to even get out there, and I was scared. I was scared about what my garden was going to look like, and I finally ripped the Band-Aid off and went out there late last week, and thankfully, very, very little hail damage. Very little. Everything is thriving. What I find fascinating is with thunderstorms and lightning in the area, so a lightning strike is super nitrogen, enriched, if you will. It's not I believe our atmosphere is around 70%, 75% nitrogen anyway, and a nitrogen contains, I believe, 2 atoms, and a lightning strike has so much energy it can split those atoms and send them into the atmosphere. They fall down into the ground and they mix into the soil and basically supercharge things to grow. Weeds and grass for one thing, but also your garden. And so you can get plants out, or if you can get seeds planted out, you almost increase the rate of them doing their next thing with lightning in the area. It's very fascinating. And it's why you experience your lawns growing really fast after a thunderstorm. It's why your garden can grow really fast after a thunderstorm. It's just supercharged with nitrogen, which helps get things leafy green. And yeah, so I had an explosion of growth after that hailstorm, which was so nice. So very nervous to see that scary storm. Everything's okay. I do not believe anyone was seriously injured in those tornadoes, thankfully, along the farmlands. Both or all 3 of those tornadoes. One of them hung out over our lake for a vast majority of its pathway. Although I did have one customer that had part of her roof ripped off of a structure that nobody's living in, thankfully. So that's good. And let's see, in the garden, I got my pinto beans fully planted out and my black-eyed peas fully planted out and the rest of my squash. And then now I just have green beans and cowpeas and what is my other? Oh, I'm doing purple whole peas for the first time this season. And then it's just, and cucumbers. I got to get them and my melons out. And then it's just like maintenance and fertilization and watering schedule and all of that. I already see my tomato plants are flowering. I have fruit already set. I've seen my first peppers and it's just very exciting. It's very exciting. So last week I managed to read through one book. Dark Truths came out, which is book number 28 by G.K. Parks. I love this series. Alexis Parker, 5 stars. I read it in one sitting. And now I have to wait, I think, until December for book 29. That's usually how it goes. With my course, no new sales, and I'm half done with the new product, and I'm going to be adjusting the funnel and how I sell. I have 16,787 followers on Instagram, 1.3 million views in the last 30 days on my account, and 8,122 followers on my Facebook page, which, again, I am not actively trying to grow. It's just a side thing that's happening because I'm auto sharing over from Instagram. And I did notice a slowdown period, so I did make some adjustments to my follower ads. And it's very interesting to see ads become exhausted. And it's not necessarily like the ad itself, it's just Meta being Meta, I guess. I don't know. But I tried one type of ad and I was not in the ad. And I believe I had 5 different creatives that were very educational focused creatives for a follower ad, and it failed. Like they did so bad because, hello, people want to see you, the creator, for the reason to follow. So I killed those ads. I created a new ad set and it's rolling, and my followers are back into the numbers that I was actively seeing before the most recent exhaustion. Very fascinating. Very fascinating. Our house, we have the porch ceiling completely done, and my electricians now can come back in and start setting the actual light boxes and the fan boxes in the newly added porch ceiling, and we should be able to rock and roll on the rest of the porch, like siding metal, which would be fantastic. And we're not that far out from spray foam and sheetrock at this point, and that is such a blessing. Such a blessing. Okay, let's get into search bar confessions for the week. I Googled framed handwriting. Like, how can I save my late mother-in-law's handwriting? How can I turn that into gifts for her son and her daughter? And so I was exploring that. I did not realize recently that Zillow allows you to list your rental property with them. And so I added one of my duplexes that is up for rent to Zillow. I've already had an application and inquiry for an appointment for a walkthrough. So that's awesome. And the other night we were coming back through a neighboring town and we noticed, it was dark, we noticed all these drones in the air over Walmart. And our Walmart's not that fancy. And so I had to Google third-party drone service at Walmart. And sure enough, that's a thing I didn't know. So if you didn't know, now you know. Has nothing to do with Walmart. They partner with a specific Zoom. They partner with a specific drone service to zoom your stuff from Walmart, and it can't be more than 5.5 pounds. Although I did read that the service is looking to get bigger drones to carry up to 8 pounds. Are we getting this lazy? I think we are. I think we're getting this lazy. It's very fascinating. And then I had to do some more deep diving on Golden Tempo and the horse trainer Cherry, I don't know how you say your name because I've not watched anything where anybody is reporting in actual audio. I've watched everything silently. And what a fascinating story. That's happened at least once before at the Kentucky Derby, last minute, like last horse running to win. and fascinating, like cowboy story. And this one is right up there. First female trainer to win the Kentucky Derby. How cool is that? And yeah, it's a year of the horse. I mean, how fascinating and kismet for all of that. And that wraps up this week's Search Bar Confessions. So let's talk about this week's business nugget. I, was scrolling Instagram as one does and saw an Instagram reel that kind of stopped me in my tracks, and I wanted to watch it. And again, I don't really listen a whole lot to audio unless I'm specifically hunting for trending audio, but I found it fascinating. These two girls were working out in this gym. I have no idea where this happened. And Richard Branson walks through. It's very small boutique area gym that this was. So it was a very small gym, nothing massive. And he walks through. He looks like he just rolled out of bed. And this girl that was exercising grabs her phone and takes off after him. And the other girl is like giving a play-by-play kind of. And the ultimate, like, what is the purpose of this reel is closed mouths don't get fed. And I watched that reel a couple of times and just really kind of noodled on this concept of closed mouths don't get fed. And I see that in myself when I'm out and about. And if I have an opportunity to have a conversation with somebody, I am. And it's usually either me talking about our roofing company or my gardening adventures and my farm stand. And I don't know if this is like an early 80s baby trait or what, or if this is something that is ingrained in entrepreneurs. Honestly, I don't know. And I want to research this more, like who has this trait more? Is it entrepreneurs? Is it creatives? Who has this closed mouths don't get fed like phenomenon, like personality trait? And I mean, just yesterday, I had to go to Tractor Supply and pick up more cattle panels. And first of all, like very sad for the younger generation, the girl couldn't spell cattle. And that's concerning. The other employee that had more rank or maybe was a manager or I don't know, but she was literally like, that's not how you spell cattle. And I was like I felt bad for the girl. And how do you not know how to spell cattle? Like you work in an ag-dominated retail space. That's concerning. Anyways, so I was getting my cattle panels and talking to the gentleman that was helping me get them loaded. And we just started talking, and he wanted to know what do you do outside of the garden? Like, what are you going to use these cattle panels for? And what do you do outside of the garden? And we started talking, and I exchanged information because he needs a roof. And so very fascinating to like just be comfortable enough and confident enough to have conversation and to never be scared to shoot your shot. Never be scared. Any opportunity you have that presents itself, you shoot your shot. I was also yesterday talking to one of my childhood best friends. We have known each other since we were 8 or 9 years old. And we got to talking about being an early 80s baby and just like financial planning as an early 80s baby and being entrepreneurial and like what is next. And we're not quite at retirement age, but we are like forecasting what are we going to do and what is our next big thing. And we're just talking. And, I kind of feel like being born in 1981, we're not quite Gen X, but we're really not quite millennials. We're just kind of like in the middle. And I started to, like, what makes us different? What makes a 1981 baby different than other people? And I found an article that was written on Pop Sugar dated 2018, June 18th, 2018. It's written by Anna Garvey. And I just want to share this article because this is what goes on in my mind and what has helped make me who I am and is like almost driving the conversations that I'm having now as an entrepreneur. And also some of the experiences that I have seen with my own two eyeballs lately with some people that are just a couple years older than us. And then also like almost my dad's generation, but not quite my dad's generation. And they're very poor financial planning. So let's dive in. This article is titled, Why 80s Babies Are Different Than Other Millennials. Anyone born in the late 70s or early 80s probably has memories of huddling around a bulky desktop with 5 or more friends to play the Oregon Trail. This article, titled The Oregon Trail Generation, Life Before and After Mainstream Tech, and originally featured on Social Media Week, discusses what life was like for that generation who grew up at the cusp of modern technology. We're an enigma. Those of us born at the tail end of the 70s and the start of the 80s, some of the generational experts lazily glob us on to Generation X and others just shove us over to the millennials they love to hate, and no one really gets us or knows where we belong. We've been called Generation Catalano, Zennials, and the Lucky Ones, but no name has really stuck for this strange micro-generation that has both a healthy portion of Gen X grunge cynicism and a dash of unbridled optimism of millennials. A big part of what makes us the square peg in the round hole of named generations is our strange relationship with technology and the internet. We came of age just as the very essence of communication was experiencing a seismic shift, and it's given us a unique perspective that's half analog, old school, and half digital, new school. If you can distinctly recall the excitement of walking into your weekly computer lab session and seeing a room full of Apple IIe's displaying the start screen of the Oregon Trail, you're a member of this nameless generation, my friend. We were the first group of kids who grew up with household computers, but still novel enough to elicit confusion and wonder. Gen X individuals were already fully formed teens or young adults when computers became mainstream, and millennials can't even remember a time before computers. But when we first placed our sticky little fingers on a primitive Mac, we were elementary school kids whose brains were curious sponges. We learned how to use these impressive machines at a time when average middle-class families were just starting to be able to afford to buy their own massive desktops. This made us the first children to grow up figuring it out, as opposed to having an innate understanding of new technology the way millennials did, or feeling slightly alienated from it the way the Gen X did. Did you come home from middle school and head straight to AOL, praying all the time that you'd hear those magic words, "You've got mail," after waiting for the painfully slow dial-up internet to connect? If so, then yes, you are a member of the Oregon Trail generation. And you're definitely part of this generation if you hopped in and out of sketchy chat rooms asking others their ASL, age, sex, location, for the uninitiated. Precisely at the time that you were becoming obsessed with celebrities, music, and the opposite sex, you magically had access to the internet, a thing that few normal people even partially grasped the power of at the time. We were the first group of high school kids to do research papers for both online and in old-fashioned card catalogs, which many millennials have never even heard of, by the way. I know because I asked my 21-year-old intern, and he started stuttering about library cards. Because we had one foot in the traditional ways of yore and one foot in the digital information age, we appreciate both in a way that other generations don't. We can quickly turn curmudgeonly in the face of teens who've never written a letter, but were glued to our smartphones just like they are. Those born in the late 70s and early 80s were the last group to have a childhood devoid of all of the technology that makes childhood and adolescence today pretty much the worst thing imaginable. It's why you see, this is a side note by me, this is why you see everybody wanting the 90s summer, the 90s traditions. We were the last gasp of a time before sexting, Facebook shaming, and constant communication. We used payphones. We showed up at each other's houses without warning. We often spoke to our friends' parents before we got to speak to them. And we had to wait at least an hour to see any photos we'd taken. But for the group of kids just a little younger than us, the whole world changed, and that's not an exaggeration. In fact, it's possible that you had a completely different childhood experience than a sibling just 5 years your junior, which is pretty mind-blowing. Thanks to the evil genius of Sean Parker, most of us were in college in the heyday of Napster and spent many a night using the university's communal Ethernet to pillage our friends' music libraries at breakneck speeds, with mouths agape at having downloaded the entire OR album in under 5 seconds. We built our music libraries faster than any other dorm-dwelling generation in history. We were the first to experience the beauty of sharing and downloading mass amounts of music faster than you can say third eye blind, which made the adoption of MP3 players and music streaming apps perfectly natural. Yet we still distinctly remember buying cassette singles, joining those scamtastic CD clubs, and recording songs onto tapes from the radio. The very nature of buying and listening to music changed completely within the first 20 years of our lives. The importance of going through some of life's toughest years without the toxic intrusion of social media really can't be overstated. MySpace was born in 2003, and that is the year I graduated college. And Facebook became available to all college students in 2004. I wasn't able to get a Facebook account until I had the opportunity as a college alumni to use my college alumni email address to get an account. So if you were born in 1981 and 1982, for example, like myself, you were literally the last graduating class to finish college without social media being a part of the experience. When we get together with our fellow Oregon Trail generational friends, we frequently discuss how insanely glad we are that we escaped the middle school, high school, and college years before social media took over and made an already challenging life stage exponentially more hellish. We all talked crazy amounts of crap about each other, took pictures of ourselves and our friends doing shockingly inappropriate things, and spread rumors like it was our jobs, but we just never had to worry about any of it ending up in a place where everyone and their moms literally could see it a hot second after it happened. But unlike our older Gen X siblings, we were still young and dumb enough to get really into MySpace and Facebook in its first few years, so we understand what it feels like to overshare on social media and stalk a new crush's page. Time after time, we late 70s and early 80s babies were on the cusp of changes that essentially transformed modern life for better and for worse. It shaped who we are and how we relate to the world. And if that is not the truth, I don't know what is. And I feel that being that human, where I didn't have Facebook when I was in school, we did have MySpace at the tail end, but it was, I don't know, it was just like a transition if you were an AOL baby. I mean, I learned how to type at breakneck speed, keeping up with 14 AOL chats at one time. And I do have my mother to thank. She would bring her computer home in the summertime, and she had a typing program, and that taught me how to type. And then in 7th grade, we had to take typing. So then I furthered my skills, and then AOL. And I got really good at typing, because if you want to keep up with that many people at one time, you got to get good at typing. And I just feel like it gave us some scrappiness, because we did have to learn and have all of this change happening. But boy, howdy, am I grateful none of it ended up on the internet. And that is such a shame nowadays. Even though technology is good, there's so much bad in technology. But I think all of that experience, going back to closed mouths don't get fed, we had no problem asking strangers who they were. We had no problem being in a chat room and talking up to people that we'd never met in real life. Like, it really opened doors to experiencing people outside of our bubbles. And it kind of gave us a backbone that I don't think exists today. And I find that fascinating. I find it fascinating that those of us that experience that, and that is everyone that I personally know that is born in my year or right before me or right after me, the conversations that we have are just different. They are truly just different. Like, we don't have a problem at pivoting. And I think so many people get hung up in life and in business because they're too scared to pivot. If it doesn't work, you need to pivot. If you gave it your all for X amount of time and you were determined to make it work, but it just doesn't work, and that happens, that's happened to me multiple times, you have to pivot, and you have to be like relentless in the pursuit to pivot, to move on, to shuck your oyster and just go. Like, that is why I'm working on another product to put into the funnel and change the way my funnel functions, because it's not working. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the pivot because it is a great product. It's just in the wrong spot. And I need a better anchor product. And that's all I really have to say about that, other than don't be scared to pitch, to shoot your shot. You may not have been born in 1981 or 1982 or 1980 or 1979, but I am giving you permission to live like you are a card-carrying member of the Oregon Trail Club generation and pitch. Don't be scared to pitch. I see that in groups now that I have like really figured out my Instagram. I see that in groups, people asking, how often should you pitch? Every single post you put out there. Every single post. Now, not every single story, I don't think. But every single post that you put out there, absolutely. There's got to be a pitch in every single one of them. Shoot your shot. Because closed mouths don't get fed. And if Richard Branson walks through your gym, you better hustle and go shoot your shot. Because when is that ever happening again? And good on her for whoever she is and whatever she talked to him about and whatever idea she pitched. Good on her for stopping what she was doing, grabbing her phone and hustling after him. I mean, she would have never had that opportunity had he not walked through. Closed mouths don't get fed. Shoot your shot. Do not be scared to pitch. And when it's not working, it's time to pivot. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you have a great rest of your week. And like my 3-year-old self said, that is all for this week. Friendly reminder to rate and review my show wherever you are listening. And last but not least, I'd love to hear from you. Leave me an audio message at bossgirlcreative.com/speak. I would love to hear your takeaways, ideas for upcoming episode topics, and your feedback. Thank you again for listening to this week's episode. And until next time, I hope you have a great rest of this one.